Hello everybody, time for another revision video here. Now we finished natural hazards, so anything for natural hazards, please see the videos before this one. But now we're going to move on to living world, the next topic in the physical paper 1 series. As a heads up going forward, what my plan is to do living world in detail, then physical landscapes, rivers and coasts in detail, and that's all of paper 1. And then sooner rather than later, paper 2, topic 1, 2, 3, and then paper 3 to finish off with. Full with exam, past paper questions, practice, top tips, all that stuff, and case studies, of course. The first one then is a basic introduction to living world. What is living world? Now, very similar to natural hazards, you'll be tested on only a couple of things. It will either be something to do with a case study, and you'll have 2 of those to learn, technically 3, but I'll get onto that in a moment. 2 ones in lots of detail, 1 in less so. Or it'll be about processes, or it'll be about key terms and the way things work. So for living world, there's lots of key terms, and this will, depending on where you're studying, depend on the topics and places of interest that your teachers and school have chosen. So I know for people that have been taught by me, your topics are going to be the rainforest and the desert. So your 9 marker most likely will be on something to do with the rainforest or the desert. Okay, I've never seen an exam question that compares both. It will be on one of those. The problem is you're not sure which one. That's why you have to revise both. Okay, there's also a kind of 2.5 case study, if you will, and that is the temperate deciduous woodland. Now, the chances are you have been taught this one first. The reason why is because it's your local case study. So it's the biome, it's the environment, it's the living world where we live in the UK. Okay, so temperate deciduous woodland, you'll be looking at nutrient cycles and things like that. In future videos, I'll explain what they are. We'll be looking at different animals, biotic, abiotic factors, examples, and what that means. This is where you look at food chains and food webs and some actual specific examples of where they can become disrupted and how important they are, along with a list of really important key terms that's important that you know, especially so you can weave them into a 6 or 9 marker. So you will get a question or questions on the temperate deciduous biome. Now that depends on, again, where you're studying, but there will be a question that says, for a small scale ecosystem that you've studied. The reason why it's small scale is because this ecosystem is tiny compared to other ones. The rainforest is a lot more prevalent across the world than the UK temperate deciduous woodland. Okay, so if it says for a small scale ecosystem you've studied, that question's about the temperate deciduous woodland, the biome of the UK. And then you'll have your other case studies as well. So in the case of what you'll be taught, or was taught by me, or will be taught in year 10 going forward, it will be the tropical rainforest, most likely the Amazon, and the desert, the Thar Desert, most likely as well. Again, this can vary depending on what school you go to, but they're the 2 that I've taught in my time at Arc Academy. So you need to know kind of what goes on there, certain processes, how they're different, how the animals adapt, how the plants adapt. That comes from natural hazards, understanding of what the climate's like in these places and why it's like that, and therefore what animals need to do to survive in that. Again, like before, you'll get a 6 marker, you'll get a 9 marker in the exam, and the 9 marker will most likely be on these things. So as a top tip for one of your mocks this year, spoilers, the 9 marker last year was on rainforest adaptations. So how plants and animals adapt in the rainforest. And again, like before, like I've said, to get a detailed level 3 answer, you have to use case studies. You'll have to use the specifics of the Amazon rather than just in the rainforest, this tree is green because. Okay? So that's living world in a small nutshell. I think it's a lot easier than natural hazards. There's a lot more complex connections to discover, but it's fairly straightforward. You've got 3 different components: tropical rainforest, desert, and then temperate grassland, temperate woodland too. Temperate deciduous woodland. Deciduous, by the way, means when the trees lose their leaves, like they do in the UK. Look at trees around you in autumn. They're going to start to turn orange, then they'll lose their leaves in the winter. That doesn't happen in the rainforest, for example. There's a reason behind that. We'll look into that. So that is a short introduction into what Living World is about. It's part of the paper 1. So again, in exam 1, you'll be sitting about natural hazards and Living World, and then rivers, coasts we'll do later. So that's basically it. Just for now, an introduction to Living World, the 3 different components, your case studies you'll have to study, Amazon, tar, UK deciduous woodland, and then the processes we'll look at in more detail in future videos. I'm hopeful that was like a brief introduction for you, a bit of a refresher for some of you, maybe an introduction entirely for some of you. But in the next video, we'll start to look at the temperate deciduous woodland, the nutrient cycles, the animals, the biomes, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll look at the rainforest and desert after that. Take care, guys. See you soon.